You doing, buddy?
Well, hello there. How's it going, First Amender?
How you doing?
Doing
This
well.
is Anarcheosis.
It is indeed. I changed my name.
Okay, why are you changing your name?
Well, because I think it would be really difficult for people to just say anarchiosis all the time. So I think it's easier to make somebody like give me a name so that they can just call me something easy.
Okay,
So
cool.
my
All
gamer
right,
tag
Mr.
used to be
Kai.
Mr.
So what
K,
can I?
but yeah.
All right, cool. So what did you want to discuss?
Okay, this is a pro trans stream, and the funny thing is, I don't really have anything against transgenderism, at least not like innately. So basically, I put together an argument because I think that while I don't believe in any legal restrictions against transgenderism, I am interested in the, let's see, social ramifications of what could happen. So I put together, I guess, like a short case of why I think that unnatural unnatural transgenderism could potentially be dangerous for society. I'm completely fine with natural people who are, trans, but I think that people who are influenced by trans people, meaning that in the last few years we've had research show that there's been a large amount of kids from Generation Z like say that they're part of the LGBTQ community, where I don't think that's a natural phenomenon. I think that it's trendy to be trans and it's trendy to be LGBTQ, which I'm against because that's a type of tokenism. Again, I'm fine with normal people who are LGBTQ, but I do have a problem with people who just claim to be that, but they aren't really, or they might be confusing themselves with it.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You have an issue with people. So basically, you're just arguing a form of like trans medicalism. Yes, would you say?
Well, what exactly do you define as transmedicalism?
So, like, in order for somebody to be trans, they basically have to get like a medical diagnosis that they are in fact trans.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know exactly how that works. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it has to do with like lots of
Well,
probably
the
like working with a
current
psychologist and stuff like
yeah, well,
that.
the current way that it goes is that they have a psychologist, um, for starters, right? And then from there, they can either, let's say, for example, if they're a minor, then it's generally just a social transition. Most of the time, people kind of grow out of this, and then they don't really actually transition. They just socially transition for a little while. But for those that do not, they end up going on hormone blockers. So that way, when they're 18, they can come to an informed consent decision. And then from there, they can choose as to whether or not that they want to fully transition using hormone replacement therapy, and then they can live out their life. But in order for that to happen, like they basically have to go through all the steps, like from a medical basis.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean that's cool. So, I mean, let me just I guess lay out my argument for you and then you can tell me what you think. First and foremost, I believe in bodily autonomy and freedom. So this means that I think that people have the right to do with their bodies as they please as long as they're not harming anyone. And so I think that I live in a society that is part of this idea of being able to transition to whatever sex you want, and this idea of transgenderism. I think that there is a correct normal level of real transgenderism, as I said before, and like there's like a correct normal amount of like gay people and things. Like I think that this is partly natural. I just think that it's been inflated in the current day because people see it as in style. So I think that
I don't
this.
disagree at all. Um, and I'm not against like, hey, you should go through the proper channels to do it. But I guess like at the end of the day, I have to ask myself, well, let's say somebody is, it's just entirely for a social reason, right? And it's just like them being influenced by what they're watching or whatever. That's fine. Does that mean like you have to like look at those people and then, you're going to self-diagnose them and say, well, you're not actually this, when you yourself are not a trained professional. Like, do you see the problem that I have with this?
Yeah, I do. And I think that's why this is kind of a messy situation, because there's so much that needs to be researched about this topic. There's so much that we don't understand about how transgenderism works, how, like, who really is transgender, who's just confused.
We know a little bit more about it than you think. You have to understand that this hormone science stuff, it started, I mean, I think as early as the 1890s, right? Where we noticed that we could actually get sexual dimorphism by removing the gonads of a chicken. Like like a rooster would adapt more chicken-like properties as a result. And they're like, whoa, that's weird. I wonder why that happens. It starts as early as that. But I mean, we've been kind of understanding a lot more about the human hormones, and it's definitely developed a lot more since the 1970s. And it's only until like very recently that it's come into vogue, but like the information had always been there.
Sure, but yeah, I don't disagree with that, I guess, specifically. But what I do mean is that we don't understand like what the purposes of it would be. Like, I think you would agree with me that there is no like biological advantage to being gay or being trans. Like, there's no biological advantage to that. In fact, it would seem like that's a biological disadvantage. So when I'm saying that we need
by biological advantage, what does that mean?
Well, because like the human species kind of lives to propagate, at least on a biological level, and that's what all life tends to do.
Trans
so the
people can
question
have
is,
kids.
why does
What are you
this?
talking about?
They can. What do you mean they can have kids?
Trans people can have kids.
Yeah, but so what? I mean, yeah, you could be a trans person and have a kid, but you mean like, do you mean like have sex?
Oh, what's your problem?
Well, like I said before, my problem is that we don't have research on the purposes of being trans or being gay, things like this. We don't know why that happens.
Yeah, I'm still a little confused. As to what do you mean by like a biological? What did you say earlier?
So I said that we don't know like the genetic or biological reason why some humans are, homosexual, why some humans are transsexual. We don't know the biological
we're aware of
reason for
certain
that.
like combinations of genes that lead someone to become more gay, but we're talking about specifically trans people. We're not aware of that one yet, but I mean, I guess like I'm just a little confused because you're saying like, oh, they're like there's like a problem with like their biology or whatever, but it's like, wait, genes change all the time. Like, would you say that like the fact that I have blue eyes, would you say that that is a genetic problem?
No, I don't even know what the advantage of blue eyes
Why
would
my
be. The
increased?
way I see it
Well,
is
I
that
mean,
blue
no,
eyes are
there's
an
actually a
adaptation.
disadvantage for blue eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
Because they have
actually
less
certain
melanin in them,
illnesses that
so they can see less. Because the melanin in your eye, which is normally like brown and black, allows you to have like more of a sunglass type look at UV radiation, whereas blue eyes have less protection. Yeah, that's true. It's an adaptation.
Okay, so yeah, so like, but we don't look at like blue eyes as like, I don't know, biologically disadvantaged. Do you see
But
the
we know
issue?
why blue eyes exist, though. We know why it exists.
Yeah, well, we also know why trans people exist.
Oh, why?
It exists at an endocrinological level.
Meaning,
There are androgynous responses that happen to people at an embryonic stage. It's actually everybody starts out as female, and then it is through the presence of testosterone. By the way, estrogen has nothing to do with this process, by the way. It is the presence of testosterone that allows somebody to become male. So there can be instances where, for example, somebody is XX chromosomes, as in female, and then when they are developing as an embryo, actually end up with excess androgynous responses that causes the synthesization of testosterone that causes them to literally be male. So when it comes out of the womb, they look at it and they go, it's a boy, but it has XX chromosomes. And there's everything in between, by the way, right? There's people who end up with some pretty interesting intersex conditions. There's one of them called congenital adrenal hyperplasia. There's also the fact that we try to match things as close to the bimodal distribution as possible, but there are people that exhibit intersex characteristics at minor levels as well as larger levels. An example of a larger level will be you have a person who is XX chromosomes end up having an androgynous response as they develop, and when they come out, they notice that there is a uterus. There is that they have a vagina and everything. However, for whatever reason, the labia has fused together to make a ball sack. In a situation like this, the doctor doesn't really know what to exactly call that, but what they notice is that they look at the x-rays and they say, okay, well, I see a uterus. I see they got all the parts here. They got a vagina. We're cutting that ball sack open to fashion a labia. And so then they suture it together, and then that's it. That person lives their life as female. The point is that there are people like this, and they exist, and you would be none the wiser, right? As far as they're concerned, they live their life female, right? But do you think that like an androgynous response could cause a difference in the hormone chemistry in your brain? The answer is yes, it does.
Yeah, that's true. And I'll agree with that. And let me just respond to that quickly before I get back to my argument. My only point in bringing this up was because I was saying that I don't understand the biological advantage or adaptation that occurs with intersex people or trans people or gay people. I don't understand that. I don't think you have research that could prove what the adaptation purposes of that is. That's all I'm saying in that case. But let me just move on and put out the rest of my case. I see that people who are unnaturally trans are probably prone to like mental health instability. And because of this, at least from what I've witnessed, is that it can be dangerous for people to adopt personality traits that they aren't, I guess, like what I'm trying to say is that some people are easily influenced by their environment. And I've noticed this a lot in my life, where some people will just go with the flow and they'll do what's trendy and cool. And many people will just become trans or say they're non-binary or trans or something like this, just because it'll give them cool like cookies or what the fuck, cookie points? What are they called? Bonus points? I don't know what the fuck they're called. They'll get social points basically for, and social credit for like, being part of the next thing. So my problem is just that when a unnatural amount of people basically, adopt this personality that is not their own. And I think there's some possible solutions to this. Again, like I'm not against making illegal any of these things. Like I do have a problem with people who are too young to make their own decisions transitioning. I think that you should be able to make the decision when you are in the right mind.
I do think that we should look at what the current expert knowledge is regarding transitioning as a minor. And if you're talking about a minor who feels that they are a woman trapped in a man's body or a woman trapped in a man's body, then what I would say is that okay, go to the psychologist. A lot of the times social transition is enough. They don't actually have to give them any drugs or anything like that. But a majority of these cases don't require hormone blockers, right? But some of them do. Right. So that's kind of like, my argument here. But like, I guess like a lot of people on the right, they're just like anti-trans. And so like any idea of going with the experts here is just, I guess like they'll just call it leftist nonsense or whatever, which is just stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I don't think this is probably a really hot take, but I don't think there's necessarily wrong with, getting the ick from trans people. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, okay? And the reason why I say this is because I think that gay people probably get the ick of when they think of being with somebody who's opposite to the sex from them, in the same way that straight people would get the ick of being with somebody the same sex as them. So I think that a lot of people on the right side probably just get the ick from trans people because it seems very unnatural to them. And I don't think that's necessarily a wrong thing. I just think that it can be problematic if you take action on that.
Okay, but that's, I mean, like a person getting the ick is not an argument.
Correct. But at the end of the day, our policies are guided by ick.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. Sort of. I mean, it's not like you can do anything about it. But
you got anything else for me, buddy? It's good to talk to you, Mr. Kai.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My other argument is that, and we might agree on this, and that would be cool. My other argument is that I don't think we should be required to follow people's pronouns. I think that it should be up to the decision of the individual to do that.
So the thing is that I don't think that there should be a legal legislation for not following people's pronouns, but just like how it's possible to ignore somebody's pronouns and specifically just be an asshole, there's a social implication to that, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at with that, right? Like if for example, right, let's say if I have, the title, somebody had the title doctor, right? And they were a doctor. Right. Or even if they're not a doctor, right? Like, let's assume that they're a chiropractor, right? If they're going to go out of their way and they're going to say, hey, please call me doctor, right? Call me Dr. Smith, right? Not Mr. Smith. I didn't spend 12 years studying this so that way, I could not be called doctor, right? And so just like as like a respectful person, you would call them doctor, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, and honestly, like, even if they're a chiropractor and they didn't like, they're just lying to your face. I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to cause friction with you and just be like, you're not a real doctor. You're a chiropractor. I just think that, we need to be able to, just be able to respect the person. And I think like, if you don't do that, it's just you being a dick. Like, that's really all it is.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And like, the thing is, so like in my real life, if a trans person came up to me and they're like, hey, can you like call me this and this? I probably would do that. And the reason is just because I don't want to have conflict with that person. I don't want to get into a fight or anything. So I would just respect their wishes. But if we're talking about like on a larger societal level, I would advocate for people having the choice, like you said, of just like being able to call them whatever they want and then let the social ramifications kick in. And then, people will be socially ostracized from just like being a dick in general.
Okay. Cool. You got anything else for me, buddy?
I just want to tell you my solutions real quick and then I'll pass on the fire. By the way, it's called brownie points. Fucking brownie points. That's what it's called. So I believe that some solutions that we could have that are nonviolent are enhanced psychological screening and counseling, meaning, like you said before, before anything medical would happen, there would just be longer screening times, more information done, more counseling done. And then I think that we should have mandatory waiting periods for medical intervention, obviously, until you're older, when you can make informed decisions. And then I believe in promoting non-medical supportive interventions. So like this would be adolescents go in and they can engage and talk to people who have gone through the transitioning experience and people who have gone through the detransitioning experience so that they get a good perspective of both sides so that they know the risks. I also think that we should just have more discussion on the topic, open minds about, whatever the case may be. And then I think that we should, most importantly, focus a lot more on research and data collection so that we can make better decisions. But
okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's all I do.